I'm sorry. I know it's just drawings, but it's all I have left of her." The young woman's voice trembled as she frantically searched the park bench where she'd been sitting moments ago. Her hands shook as she checked beneath scattered autumn leaves, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. A man in an expensive suit approached cautiously, holding a worn leather sketchbook. "Excuse me, is this what you're looking for?" 26-year-old Lennox Hartley spun around, her breath catching. "Yes! Oh, thank God, yes!" She reached for it, then paused, her fingers hovering. "Where did you find it?" "On the bench," he said gently, noticing how she held the sketchbook like something sacred. "I was about to leave when I saw it. The drawings inside, they're extraordinary." Lennox's cheeks flushed. "You looked through it?" "Just enough to know it was important," he admitted. "The portraits especially. There's so much emotion in them." She clutched the sketchbook to her chest, and he noticed her hands trembling. "My mother drew those, before the Alzheimer's took everything away. This sketchbook is the only proof she ever saw the world the way I remember, full of beauty and light." The stranger's expression shifted, something deep and painful crossing his features. "I understand more than you know. I'm Thaddeus Crane." The name meant nothing to Lennox, but something in his eyes, a familiar grief, made her respond honestly. "Lennox, and thank you for not just leaving it there." What Lennox didn't know was that Thaddeus Crane was the CEO of Crane Media Corporation, a man whose face appeared in business magazines and whose wealth was measured in billions. What Thaddeus didn't know was that Lennox had quit her promising career as a graphic designer 3 years ago to care for her mother full-time, watching helplessly as the brilliant artist who'd taught her to draw gradually forgot how to hold a pencil. "Would you like to sit?" Thaddeus gestured to the bench. "You look like you could use a moment." Lennox nodded, sinking down beside him. For several minutes they sat in silence, watching ducks glide across the pond. "She died 6 months ago, my mother. By the end, she didn't know who I was, but I found this sketchbook in her things, drawings from before I was born, from when she was young and free. Every page reminds me she was a whole person once, not just the shell of someone I used to know." Thaddeus was quiet, his jaw working. "My parents died in a car accident when I was 25, 8 years ago now. They never got to see what I built, never knew if I'd amount to anything." He paused. "I keep my father's reading glasses in my desk drawer, never use them, can't throw them away. They're proof he existed, that he mattered." Lennox turned to him, understanding passing between them. "We're both orphans, aren't we, even though we're adults?" "Yes," breathed Thaddeus, "exactly that." They began meeting at that same bench every Saturday afternoon. Thaddeus told himself it was because the park was peaceful, but truthfully, Lennox's gentle presence filled a hollowness he'd carried for years. She brought her sketchbook, sometimes drawing while they talked, and he'd bring books his father had loved, reading passages aloud. "Why do you live alone? With your success, you could have anyone, anything." Thaddeus smiled sadly. "Success is lonely. People see the CEO, not the person. They want something from me, investment, connections, status. No one just sits with me, except you." "Maybe that's because I don't know who you really are," Lennox admitted. "I still haven't Googled you." "Please don't," he said quickly, then softer. "I like being just Thaddeus here, not the CEO, just a man who misses his parents and found a friend who understands." Weeks turned to months. Thaddeus learned that Lennox lived with her father, who'd never recovered from losing his wife, who barely spoke anymore. She worked freelance jobs from home, designing logos and websites, but her real passion, fine art, remained locked away with her grief. One Saturday, Thaddeus arrived at their bench to find Lennox crying, clutching her sketchbook. I tried to draw something new today, the first time since Mom died, but I can't. Every time I put pencil to paper, I see her hands shaking, trying to remember how. I'm terrified I've lost it too." Thaddeus sat beside her, his voice firm but gentle. "You haven't lost anything. You're afraid of dishonoring her memory by moving forward. But Lennox, your mother gave you this gift. Using it isn't betrayal, it's celebration." "How do you know?" she asked brokenly. "Because I spent 3 years refusing to touch my father's tools. He was a carpenter before becoming a lawyer. Always said working with his hands kept him grounded. After he died, I couldn't look at his workshop. Then one day I built a bookshelf. Terrible, wobbly thing. But finishing it felt like he was there, guiding my hands. Like I was keeping part of him alive." Lennox stared at him, something shifting in her expression. "I never thought of it that way. Your mother's gift didn't die with her. It lives in you. Every drawing you create honors her." 2 weeks later, Lennox arrived at their bench with a shy smile, carrying a large portfolio. "I drew something. Will you look at it?" Thaddeus opened the portfolio carefully. Inside was a stunning charcoal portrait of him sitting on their bench, reading his father's book, sunlight filtering through autumn leaves. The detail was breathtaking, but more than that, she'd captured something essential: his loneliness, his quiet strength, his hidden grief. "Lennox," he breathed, "you're incredibly talented." "It's yours, for giving me back more than just a sketchbook, for giving me back myself." Thaddeus looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she'd done the same for him. In a life filled with boardrooms and business deals, she'd reminded him what truly mattered: human connection, shared grief, gentle understanding. "I need to tell you something," he said carefully, "about who I am, what I do. I've been not lying, but not fully honest either." Lennox smiled. "I know you're Thaddeus Crane, the CEO. I figured you out weeks ago. Saw your picture in a magazine at my dentist's office." He stared at her, shocked. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you needed to be just Thaddeus, and honestly, I needed that too. I needed a friend who saw me as Lennox the person, not Lennox the former designer who gave up her career, or Lennox whose mother died of Alzheimer's. Just Lennox." "Just Lennox," breathed Thaddeus, "the most extraordinary person I've ever met." Their friendship deepened into something neither could quite name, not romance, but something equally profound: mutual understanding, shared healing. 6 months after finding her sketchbook, Thaddeus made Lennox a proposition. "My company needs a creative director, someone who understands that art isn't just about aesthetics, it's about emotion, connection, humanity. I think that person is you." Lennox shook her head immediately. "Thaddeus, I can't accept charity." "It's not charity," he interrupted firmly. "I've seen your work. You're brilliant. But more than that, you understand what I'm trying to build. A company that values people, not just profit. Please, let me give you the chance someone once gave me." "Who gave you a chance?" Lennox asked softly. "My father. He believed I could do anything, even when I doubted myself. He died before seeing me succeed, but his belief carried me through." Thaddeus's voice cracked. "Your mother believed in you, too. She gave you her gift. Honor it. Use it. Let her legacy live through your art." Tears streamed down Lennox's face. "You really think I can do this?" "I know you can." 1 year later, Lennox stood in her first gallery exhibition, her drawings displayed for the world to see. Each piece told a story of grief transformed into beauty, loss transformed into art. In the center hung the portrait of Thaddeus, titled simply, "The Man Who Returned More Than a Sketchbook." Thaddeus stood beside her, watching visitors marvel at her work. "Your mother would be so proud." "So would your father," Lennox replied, squeezing his hand. "We did it, Thaddeus. We survived the grief." "No," he corrected gently, "we transformed it. Together." They stood in comfortable silence, two people who'd found healing in the most unexpected place, on a park bench, connected by a forgotten sketchbook and the courage to be vulnerable with a stranger. "Thank you," Lennox whispered, "for seeing me, for believing in me, for giving me back my art." "Thank you," Thaddeus replied, "for reminding me that success means nothing without connection, that wealth is worthless without humanity, that sometimes the most valuable thing we can do is simply return what someone has lost. Sometimes what we lose in a park leads us exactly where we need to be. A forgotten sketchbook, a chance encounter, a stranger's kindness that becomes friendship, that becomes healing. We're all carrying something precious, dreams, talents, hopes we've set aside because grief made us forget our worth. And sometimes all we need is one person who sees our value and hands it back to us, saying, 'This is too important to leave behind.' True success isn't measured in wealth or status. It's measured in the human connections we nurture, the gifts we help others reclaim, and the courage to be vulnerable enough to heal together. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together."